Today I interviewed Jake Boyle from Caleb and Brown, which is a small kind of boutique brokerage. If you are a hands-off investor and you don't like the complications of an exchange, for example, and you want this tailored service that is premium, Caleb and Brown by far is the best choice. Now, this is not an ad for Caleb and Brown. I'm just a big fan of Caleb and Brown, and I do have an affiliate link in the description. We both get something if you do sign up with Caleb and Brown, but no pressure. Hear him out, hear what he has to say. And if you do end up considering Caleb and Brown, got the link in the description. You can also use the QR code to sign up. Now, listen to this interview where I basically recommend to Caleb and Brown that they use XRP and the XRP ledger to do their business. Yes, I'm telling them how to do their business, and I still think I'm right. Enjoy the video. Hey, Jake.
Hey, Lewis, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. Got some sun in London today, so can't complain. Otherwise, it's been like winter every other day, which I guarantee you I was complaining profusely about.
Yeah, it's pulled it out of the bag today a little bit. It's a bit cloudy though, as you can see. I've got a camera.
That's looking nice.
I have a camera over here. That's the one that obviously you're looking at, but I'm looking at you here, so it's a little bit of an artistic flair. So
I like it.
I am looking at you. I'm not like ignoring you. Is the point?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So, how was the whole XRP court case resolution volume on Caleb and Brown?
It's pretty chaotic, to be honest. As you can imagine, emotions run high. Pair that with a 24/7 market and 10 to 20% price movements by the hour, not just on XRP, but on XLM. And then we had other coins in there as well, which were running like crazy, just purely by association. It was wild. So like phones are going off, everyone wants to speak at the same time, emails are coming through, limit orders are being set, limit orders are being cancelled, stop limits are being set, stop limits are being cancelled, and everything else in between. But it was really good. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a fantastic problem to have. Busy times, but exciting times, and a lot of clients are already in very handsome profits with their XRP bags, and can't ever complain about that.
How did the system actually hold up? Because I don't know if you saw it, but I interviewed the CEO of Uphold, and he said their whole system was actually prepared for a 10x spike in volume, and they had a 50x
Wow.
at the moment, and the system shut down. I mean, you couldn't get onto Uphold. So how was it for Caleb and Brown on the system standpoint?
Yeah, great question. Very relevant question too, because at the end of the day, we've seen time and time again back in late 2017, altcoin rally, then 2021, 2020 and 21 incrementally throughout the rallies within those years. Time and time again, exchanges go bust when the prices are actually really at their local tops. It's not problematic on our end. Like the way that we work is very, very different. So we don't have a website interface whereby you just hope to God that continues to work. And if something breaks or if something is compromised, then you just send a support ticket and hope that they get back to you. We've seen the worst of that with FTX when they were going under and everyone is scrambling to try and get a hold of anyone they can to get coins out. And we've seen it with major exchanges when altcoins have peaked in price and people are trying to log in to sell their coins or swap them into something else or withdraw or deposit, and just nothing goes through, nothing works. Because we use a broker model, we don't run into those kind of headaches. We're not trying to onboard 10 million people to leverage trade and do everything else in between. We've got a simple business model. This is what we can do. This is what we can't do. Set an account, 24/7 brokerage, and we set everything in advance most of the time as well. So a lot of clients already have an investment strategy before they open an account with us, or they develop it whilst having an account with us and adjust it accordingly over time. So what we find is a lot of clients had strategies where they thought, look, I want to get my cost base out of XRP. They might have bought in that 30 to 40 cent range, and then when it wicked way up into the 80 cent range, I thought, look, I'm going to take a portion of my cost base out, just because they might want to use that capital for something in the real world, perhaps property, whatever the case may be. And they've locked that in already. So that's easy business. They can be out for dinner. They get the funds sent to their bank account. They don't need to worry about it. And then if they do need to cancel something, they have direct lines. So you've got direct email addresses to people who are in the office at that point in time. So it wasn't problematic for us at all. Don't get me wrong, it was busy. Like everyone, stayed back a bit later than usual, and the phone calls were a bit more intense than usual. A few emotions running high, but nothing broke or failed to work. We've never had an issue of that sort.
That's great. And I've been using Caleb and Brown for a little while now, and I quite like I think that I would say, just from my perspective, the interface element is up there as being one of the selling points for me. It's so easy. Like if you're not someone who kind of wants to go into an exchange and then see all the complicated terms, and there's so much going on a traditional trading setup on an exchange, that it's a bit too much. There's not like trailing stop losses, like all these words that people have to kind of learn if you're going to trade. It's just very clear and easy to use. So I commend you for the work that's been done there.
Awesome feedback.
I've also moved my mum and dad's assets to Caleb and Brown, so exclusively Caleb and Brown. And that's because I know that when they go onto the platform, I know they're going to navigate it. And so, that's a really big benefit. You mentioned there are things we do and things we don't do. What are those things?
Great question. So I guess the crypto space is so vast. It's 24/7. It's full of the best and the worst of what the world probably has to offer, just to call it out for what it is. And there's a lot of services that clients have asked us for in the past, which regrettably we just haven't been able to provide. At the end of the day, we're a personalized service. We're meeting these clients face to face, getting coffees, dinners, lunches. One of the guys went go-karting with a client last week. So the last thing you want to do is over-promise and then under-deliver, because that's horrible for relationship management, right? So for us, if we can't do something, we'll call it out for what it is. For example, we've had clients say, I want to be able to get a loan against my cryptocurrencies. Do you guys offer loans? We don't offer loans. It's an area that we don't specialize in. It's not something that we've ever really explored. And we just want to be perfect at what we do advertise doing, which is a brokerage model. Clients ask about things such as staking as well. Can you get a yield for us? Well, the way that we store coins is we utilize cold storage, we utilize vault security, and a whole array of variables which are all centered around utmost security and quality assurance. And unfortunately, that prohibits us from being able to open up this wild world of moving things onto different platforms and generating yields over here. That's just not what we do. Other companies might offer that. That's just not what we do. And then outside of that, things like leverage trading, derivatives, options. We don't trade stocks. We don't trade bonds. We're cryptocurrency, predominantly spot trading. We offer limit orders. You can place stop losses with us. You can call your broker and navigate the most complex trade you've ever wanted. You can trade XRP directly to XLM or Algorand or Bitcoin or OMG, Link, you name it. So we're very flexible in that area, but we just want to be perfect at that and reliable and consistent there. We don't want to start over-promising things, because we'll just disappoint clients if we do that.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, the borrowing against assets thing. And I guess that before we get into that, I'll ask about kind of, you mentioned cold storage. There's also other custody things that happen in the background. Can you explain how all of that works?
For sure. So without overcomplicating things, which I think there's too much jargon as there is in the crypto landscape, effectively what happens is you've got an account with Caleb & Brown. You've got an assigned broker who is, think of them as a person who is responsible for you having an awesome time working with us. So if you have a problem, a question, whatever the case is, you go to them. They've also got other people who support them all around the world. So it's a 24/7 rolling model. You've always got someone there to speak to. You get an account for our online portal. Simple, basic user interface, fairly easy to use. You're not going to have any issues. And if you do, your broker will sort it out for you. Now, from that point forward, you can deposit coins with us and you'll see the balances show up. Now, when you have an exchange, the way that those coins are stored is often rather vague and gray and often just not spoken about at all. Now, you've got millions of customers on these exchanges, so you can only imagine how complex it would have to be. For us, we've got about 26,000 trading customers right now around the world, and therefore we can actually dedicate all our internal resources into each and every client, because it's not that many clients. So from that point forward, you've got your account, you've sent coins across. What happens is once your account is created, we automatically generate a whole fleet of wallets for you. Those wallets are unique to your account. So if you want to deposit XRP, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, just for three very basic examples there, you'll have a unique wallet address for each of those three coins. Once you send coins to that address, you'll get an email. Oh, they're notified. I can see it in my portal. My broker's told me they're there. If you go on a block explorer, you'll actually note that that is a fresh address. No one else is using that address. And you'll also realize that your coins are stored there. And if you've got another account, perhaps you've got a LLC, a trust, or some complex corporate structure, or your partner has an account, whatever the case is, you'll also notice that their wallet is also unique to them. So that's one of the things that we do quite differently to most service providers in the industry is we segregate client assets. What that means for the client is that there isn't this one wallet holding everything, whereby if that wallet is compromised, it's just this landsliding domino effect of everyone losing out. It means that we can control everything one by one. Every time we withdraw coins or receive coins, it's an isolated case. It's an isolated transaction. When a client wants to sell or buy, the way that we work is we have our own company working capital and liquidity. So we're always plugged into all the liquidity resources around the world. So if you say, hey, I need to sell this XRP ASAP, we actually don't need to move your XRP immediately to sell your specific units. We can execute the sale, get it locked in for you, and then our operations team cleans everything up in the background to make sure we're obviously not giving away free money to clients, not actually taking the XRP that's being sold. But ultimately what it means is clients get to harness the benefits of security and quality assurance by utilizing cold storage solutions, unique wallets, but they don't have to compromise the speed of which the transaction is executed because we have our own liquidity. Yeah. And then in between all of that, if clients want to withdraw coins, because we're a personalized service, we can call you directly, we can text you, we can have you on WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, you name it. We can customize things really as much as you want. You can even freeze your account to make sure that we can't withdraw coins unless we jump on a video call with you or change your email address. So we have a lot of unique selling points there to stronghold that side of things, because at the end of the day, the largest cause of cryptocurrencies being lost is actually typically social engineering and security breaches. It's not actually private keys being stolen. So we want to cover all the aspects of what makes good security.
So I'll be interested to know when a transaction is requested by a client, is it just their signature that is required, or in the back end do Caleb and Brown just kind of automatically sign as well if the client signs? Because when I think about, for example, PolySign or standard custody, if you have your assets in one of their vaults, if you will, you have to set up a series of signatories so that, it's like the Lord of the Rings. You need all the rings together to make the decision. How does that work on the Caleb and Brown side?
It's very comparable to the Lord of the Rings reference, which I appreciate. On our side, so basically, when a client needs to whitelist an address, so they have an address, it hasn't been tested before, first and foremost, their broker will typically give them a phone call just to make sure, look, this is the address you've sent, these are the digits involved, this is why you're sending it, this is what you want to achieve by sending this address, just making it really black and white. And we like to speak in layman terms. We don't want to complicate things. From that point forward, every address will be tested. So we'll always test the address first. We can't withdraw coins unless there's been successful test first for a new whitelisted address. From that point, we enforce 2FA for all clients. We enforce 2FA for our online portal as well. In addition to that, on our end, the client will need to prompt and request that withdrawal. Their broker will need to go through the process of submitting and approving it. And then we have a completely separate custody team who has that final tick of approval. Now, in the back end, there's a lot of complexities and whatnot, which we've simplified for our staff. We're not touching private keys. We're not going into anything which would be high risk or subject to human error. But there are obviously numerous tests to make sure that the right people at the right time can approve these transactions. That involves the client. That involves the broker who's responsible for the client experience. It also involves our custody team, which is independent of staff and independent of the customer. So it is, I'm not going to use the word multi-sig because it's kind of our own version that effectively equates to what that represents. But a lot of it is built and it's unique to us.
Interesting. Okay. As we all know, security is crucial in the world of digital currencies. And I've got something to share with you that can help protect your online presence from potential threats. This video is sponsored by NordVPN, an amazing cybersecurity tool that helps protect your online connection and privacy online. To get an exclusive deal from NordVPN, go to nordvpn.com/Lulu. Now let's talk about a common threat that you'll find in crypto. It's something called man-in-the-middle attacks. And these attacks happen when somebody intercepts your data and your connection to the internet. And this can be on public Wi-Fi or other vulnerable connections. For example, you might be checking your crypto portfolio on a public Wi-Fi, and without knowing it, a hacker could be stealing your passwords. And that's where NordVPN comes in. They have top-notch encryption, they secure your internet traffic, and so if somebody does try to intercept your connection, all they'll see from the data is gibberish. Plus, NordVPN has a feature called threat protection, and that keeps you safe from malware and other online dangers. Do not let hackers steal your crypto assets or your information. NordVPN now by clicking the link in the description, or again, visit nordvpn.com/Lulu. What's really good is that there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's actually no risk at all, and see how it can enhance your online safety. And what's even better than that is that they're going to give you 4 months extra when you buy a 2-year plan. So remember, your online security is in your hands, so go to nordvpn.com/Lulu and get yourself protected. Back to the video. So when I think about custody solutions and then pairing in loaning against assets, I know that's not something that happens right now, but I just kind of want to talk about it. I foresee a time, and I think Polysign and Standard Custody are more open to this, and I think actually probably will be doing it, is allowing you to kind of use your assets within the vaults to collateralize those assets. But you have to have you have to have a bank that's willing to do it as well. It's like a 3-way thing that you have to kind of guarantee in order to be able to do it.
I think there's definitely a future. I think in the years ahead, we will see a lot of success in ways where multiple parties can have effectively joint custody on assets, which are liquid assets that have a denominated value in US dollars and Australian dollars, British pounds, you name it. And therefore, more traditional industries such as banks can use that as collateral to issue loans accordingly. The issue right now with cryptocurrency is if I go to the bank and say, hey, I promise I've got 10 Bitcoin, I can afford this loan. Realistically, you can't blame the bank for not wanting to touch that, because I could also just say that I lost the private keys tomorrow and no one can really prove otherwise. I believe that at the end of the day, there is going to be a future. That's more so in probably the DeFi space. We are already seeing a lot of success there, but it's certainly being battle tested, particularly this last 48 hours. I would like to see the banks become more involved and harnessing of the opportunities that people can have, because it makes sense that, particularly in these times, that people would want to utilize their crypto assets that are long-term holdings to generate short-term loans so they can do other things. That's a logical thing that people tend to do. I think we're close. The reason I think we're close to that happening is because the amount of documents I get into from banks and the way that, and G20, Bank of International Settlements, all of these papers, they're all going very heavy into like institutional grade custody. How do we categorize these things in custody? And when I look at Polysign, when I look at Fireblocks, these entities that are having institutional grade custody, they are providing the environment for banks to be more willing to accept, okay, like standard custody, we approve you as a bank, we approve you, and that you're trusted and that the assets are real that you hold, you're a verified entity. So, okay, we are open to doing a loan in that capacity. I think where we stand right now is I think it's probably one bank in the world that is up for it. And that's just because I've got my ear to the ground on like the actual cutting edge of where we are. I do believe there's one bank that's willing to do it. It's just the fact of where we are. But as time moves on, I just think, the G20 timeline for cross-border payments sounds like just a cross-border payments thing. And if you're only interested in payments and blockchain, then you'd only be interested in that if you met those prerequisites. But what I'm also seeing is that all these documents and all of the reports, like Ripple published a report the other day talking about the general sentiment of people
in relation to CBDCs and blockchain. And I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about institutions and large financial entities. They are all like in the 80s of percent willing to use cryptocurrency and blockchain to advance the business in the next 3 years. They all say specifically in the next 3 years. Well, what happens in the next 3 years? Well, the end of the timeline for cross-border payments happens in the next 3 years, literally to the date. So I know they're all looking at it. And I also know that they also see that there's 3 years to get all their ducks in a row. So while it's not happening right now, I also think that in the next 3 years, all of this happens. And so
I agree. And I think that where we're at right now is a very interesting part of the market cycle, whereby we had the pains of 2021, 2022. We obviously saw the downfall of Celsius and the whole centralized finance component of the cryptocurrency landscape. We then, of course, just when we thought times were tough enough, there was a whole explosion of FTX and Alameda and everything that came about from there. And as a result of that, so many traditional investors were burnt with FTX. It's one of the biggest scandals of the 21st century. And as a result of that, there is naturally going to be a period of time where traditional interest will completely vacate the crypto ecosystem. And I don't think any of us can really blame them for that. If I'm Ontario pension fund or one of the large conglomerates invested in FTX, I'm not touching cryptocurrency for a while. That's a nightmare for me. But in saying that, what we've seen in the years since is there is innovation in the space, and all nascent asset classes go through a period where they're going to be abused. They're going to be ripe with scammers. They're going to have regulatory gray areas, lack of clarity at every corner, and that is the best environment for bad actors. As a business, we've operated since 2016, so we've seen all these companies come and go over the years, screw over their clients, screw over investors, and it's horrible. It's really painful to be involved in the industry when you see this happen so regularly. But I do believe that things will start to gain more clarity. The SEC news with XRP 2 weeks ago is already starting to set the tone that we might be able to start getting further clarity on. This is what the industry can do. This is what it can't do. This is what we define here. This is what we define there. If we can get to that period of time, I do believe cryptocurrency will no longer be this the stepchild that you dislike or anything of that sort, and it'll actually be embraced in the broader family of financial markets. And I look forward to a time where cryptocurrency is just seen as, oh, you've got the stock exchange in this jurisdiction, you've got cryptocurrency, which is quite global, you've got the debt markets and so forth, and it all just bundles up as one financial ecosystem that you can participate in.
Absolutely. It's incredibly exciting. It's the transition from speculation to utility, right? And I do think, like, obviously I don't work at Caleb and Brown, so more that happens, but it seems to me that the more open companies like Caleb and Brown can be to the possibilities of what this blend of blockchain and the traditional system can offer, the more open you are to having services exploring the ideas of collateralizing through Fireblocks, because Fireblocks could do something like that. For example, they could figure out how to do that, and it wouldn't be something you offer, but it would be something they offer, and by extension, there could be things done like that. I just think if we see a situation where the likes of Uphold, let's say Caleb and Brown, stop innovating and stop looking forward to the actual use of these assets, because right now people are investing, making some money, losing some money. But there'll be a time where actually this asset that I have in XRP, for example, it hasn't moved for 10 years. I'm just holding it to wait for it to be used the way it's supposed to be used, and actually even to lend out my XRP for other people to use. So having that open mind to allow the possibility of the future to also integrate with your offering now I just think that's really important. I think it's going to define the speed at which this happens and is brought to the mainstream.
I think it's just accountability at that stage. Like it's all good and well to be a crypto business that generates revenue, has customers, has employees, pays the bills, keeps the lights on, which actually just turned back on there.
Yeah.
Good to see we can keep the lights on here still. Um, but that's all good and well. But at the end of the day, you need to have something exciting and forward thinking. And the industry doesn't adapt. The industry does not grow naturally. It takes people and human resources and innovation, good ideas, collaboration to get there. So what I would like to see is numerous cryptocurrency businesses, numerous businesses in the traditional world of finance actively look towards how they can integrate this technology set so that they can provide a better service to their customers. If that's the first principle approach that everyone takes, then we will see innovation, and we will also see matters of fraud and scams, the likes of wrongdoing, start to decrease over time as well. So I'm very optimistic. I think we've had a really tough couple of years, but I do think that it's a part of what will ultimately make a good story at the end of the line.
Yeah, certainly. I'm gonna pick your brain here a little bit. Maybe it doesn't fall under your remit. Maybe it does. Imagine a world, right, where XRP is used for the way it's supposed to be used as a neutral bridge asset. You take this fiat, you want to turn it into another fiat in a payment cross border, then you use XRP in the middle as that liquidity pool. Now, Caleb and Brown have their own liquidity, right? Because that keeps you you're able to facilitate those conversions, those trades, I guess, quicker than would be if you had to actually get the cold storage wallet out. You don't have to do that all at this time of the trade. You can do that, kind of delay it by using that liquidity, like you explained. It seems to make sense to me that liquidity pot would just be XRP. Do you know what I mean? It would, because you could actually use it how the whole point of XRP is to turn anything to anything via these pairs using XRP in the middle. So as a blockchain-based, cryptocurrency-based company, do you foresee a future where it's actually settling these payments using assets rather than fiat?
Definitely. I mean, as we currently stand and currently operate, we often have settlements in stablecoins all the time. In fact, more often than fiat currencies, I would say. And when we first started out, we're a fiat business through and throughout. We've got our Canadian dollars, our Australian dollars, New Zealand dollars, you name it. As things evolve and as you create more liquidity partners, you start working with more over-the-counter desks, funds, traditional companies and banks across the world, you start to realize that it's a lot easier just to operate in a stable coin from time to time. We can get that access to settling transactions within a couple of minutes as opposed to waiting on expensive bank wires across the world and things of that sort. So I have to agree with your statement on the basis that irrespective of any personal opinions of mine or anybody else's on XRP, Bitcoin, anything of that sort, the reality is as a company, we're already innovating using blockchain infrastructure as is. We utilize the benefits of blockchain in terms of our internal audit processes and how we track the inflow and the outflow. We're using tailor-made accounting solutions internally that piggyback on the basis of how easy it is to monitor transactions on a blockchain. We utilize stablecoins for liquidity all the time. We work with other counterparties that we may settle transactions, or we may even pay fees directly in stable coins to these counterparties and these third-party businesses that we use their technology or use their product suite. So we're already doing things of that nature. Now, if XRP throughout its growth and throughout its progress over the year ahead and the years ahead, if that allows great alternatives, if that allows a seamless capacity to operate a multinational business that has money coming in and out every hour of every day, by all means, I guarantee you our team is going to explore that. It would be negligent for us not to. Where we stand right now is we simply want to provide the best product we can to customers. We want to make sure customers aren't exposed to spreads. We don't want clients to dump the market when they sell. We don't want clients to have crazy foreign exchange costs if they're trading, say, Canadian dollars directly into Stellar. We want them to get just as good of a deal if they were using US dollars. So we're already looking for the most innovative, practical way of getting stuff done. If XRP or any other provider can do so, by all means, we'll be the first to be exploring that.
Cool. That's really good to hear. But also, you've got to choose XRP, okay? It's the best. It's the absolute best for this. I will say though, when XRP's value is high, like the price per token is high, it naturally at that point needs to be stable to be. It essentially needs to be stable to be used at this massive scale, because the banks don't want big differences on the price when they buy and sell a $10 billion of the digital yuan. Like they want it to be exactly the same price.
Correct.
And that can only be done by that kind of atomic settlement, instant settlement that XRP can offer.
And the volatility we have now just shows how early those days are.
Yes, I mean, exactly.
All-time high on XRP is what, $3.40 USD, I think, a couple of years back.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just shy of 70 cents last time I checked.
Yeah.
XRP is way too volatile right now for that specific scenario you illustrated. But it's also a new asset, which we often forget. This isn't a 200-year-old. This isn't gold. This isn't silver. This isn't even the US dollar, which even the US dollar is fairly new as a currency. But at the end of the day, we need to realize that this is early days for adoption, and we're really talking on the forefront of emerging movements, right? But there is clearly a long way to go until we get that adoption. And the volatility right now, even not just for XRP, even just for Bitcoin as an age-old example, a lot of people move to Bitcoin instead of the local currency they may have, particularly in areas of South America and the likes, where inflation is dramatically worse than what we're seeing in the UK and Australia. But even then, the volatility on Bitcoin does not actually help the cause.
No, absolutely. And now I think about it, Caleb and Brown has more clients than the country of Palau has citizens. And I don't know if you saw, Palau has created a stablecoin on the XRP ledger that uses XRP, the asset, to transfer value using their kind of stablecoin. So that makes me think, because Palau is linked with the Fed, so the American financial system, I could see a world where Caleb and Brown have their own stablecoin that is pegged to let's say the US dollar or the Australian dollar, whatever it is. Have it pegged kind of one-to-one in that way, meaning you can use XRP without directly using XRP. I'm just thinking of ways you can use XRP. Trying to think of ways around it. But yeah, like,
I think there's going to be a lot of options out there for sure.
Of course. Big companies could actually be utilizing the quick asset value transfer settlement time, not directly by using cryptocurrencies, but by issuing stable coins on certain blockchains, is essentially what I'm saying. And if Palau can do it, there's companies like Caleb and Brown, Uphold, you could all do it, but it's a time thing. It's a time exploration. Some other people have to jump first to take the risk, and it helps make everyone who makes that jump afterwards makes a better, more informed decision with everyone else's due diligence being done.
Exactly.
Around. So
no, I completely agree.
I don't know. Are you familiar with Molly Elmore?
I'm not. Sorry.
Oh man, you've got to watch her stuff.
I'll check it out after this.
Yeah, she talks about something called a virtuous cycle, and it's the opposite of a death spiral. So when a couple of banks start going down, then they all start to crumble, and it's like unstoppable all the way to the bottom. But the virtuous cycle is the opposite of that, and the virtuous cycle can be sped up by certain entities. So let's say you get the likes of Amazon or Amazon Web Services, and they're using, let's say the XRP ledger, just making that up, to facilitate all the payments when the price is really high of the asset. That would be a catalyst. That would be the type of catalyst to create that virtuous cycle on the upside. So I think there's two ways you create a virtuous cycle. One way is that smaller companies just make that change outside of the banking system. They do it themselves because there's an easy onboarding way of doing it. There'll be other ways to do that. Or you get the big players come in and then everyone just follows. I wonder, it kind of makes me think, what do you think is next? Is there a death spiral next, or is there a virtuous cycle next?
I think we've had enough. We've had a very difficult 24 months behind us now. So I would like to be more optimistic and go for the virtuous cycle option. I'd certainly prefer that. I definitely agree. I think that with these large communities, people tend to establish within the community what is considered viable, what is considered moral, and they all naturally gravitate towards following that. So you see, I mean, I'm not going to get into broader politics or social movements or anything, but you can see time and time again how fast communities can rally behind something. And in terms of like fiscal liberty, if you want to call it that, everyone right now has gone through this period of time of experiencing rapid inflation around the world, financial uncertainty, tremendous volatility across financial markets, and everything else in between. That's all on the back of post-COVID era, post-market crash, FTX. It all contributes to this spiral of uncertainty. What we see moving forward, I believe, will be once people start doing things which work, which empower them, and they tell their small community around them, and then that community grows. I am actually much more confident in that. I don't think that the businesses are necessarily going to define the future. I would like to suggest that the consumers will. Areas of decentralized finance already indicate that, where one peer and another peer can already create a really harmonious, on-chain, verifiable way of engaging in a contractual agreement. I would like to propose more optimism towards that way of thinking. And if companies can do that and consumers feel empowered by those companies and they like those companies and then they tell their peers around it about it, I can see a pretty harmonious financial ecosystem potentially in the future. But I think I'd be kidding myself to suggest that we don't have some rocky times ahead before we get to that kind of utopia.
Yeah. I also think a lot of it is we need to do it ourselves too. So if you're a company, like I'm doing everything I can to find ways to use the blockchain to do what I do even. Because I feel weird using the traditional system to get paid for what I do. And I'm making a conscious effort to make that change, but also from a peer-to-peer perspective, we need to be like, as a community in crypto, saying, when you're paying for something with someone else, can I pay in crypto? At the very least, that starts a conversation about, why do you want to pay me in crypto? Isn't that a scam? I mean, that's the perfect person to come into contact with. It's almost like we have to be evangelists of what we're a part of, right? We have to go out there and educate people, and promote cryptocurrency. Any cryptocurrency, let's say, to like, if I go on Facebook Marketplace and I want to buy a bench press machine, I need to go and ask them, can I pay in crypto? At the very least, it starts a conversation. At the very best, exactly, you're using the cryptocurrency as it's supposed to be used, separating yourself from the bank. And that's I think that's one of those foundational grassroots things that we don't do, that we probably should be if we're talking about it and thinking about it so much.
Well, I mean, education is such a critical component here. And if your whole exposure to cryptocurrency is just major media headlines, what's going to happen is during a bull market, you're going to be in love with the ecosystem. And the moment the price starts falling, you're going to think the entirety of it is a scam. And you're going to be so emotionally invested on the upside and the downside that you're never going to get anywhere. You're going to be buying the top, selling the bottom. It's going to be a nightmare for you. That's why I always say, like we say this to clients too, you've got to do your own research. No one wants to hear it. And it's so easy to say, and too many companies say it, but it's actually true. It's all good and well to use third-party solutions. It's all good and well to read the news every day. But unless you actually dive into the technicalities to at least in some capacity, you are ultimately missing out. And what we've found is we've had clients who sign up and say, hey, Jake, I'm looking to invest some money. I've got 4 coins in mind. My friend told me they're worth looking into. So I'm just going to buy them, take a punt, right? And then what you find 1 month later, they're sending emails saying, oh my God, I just read this use case, how this person purchased this using Ethereum and they can verify it based on this transaction. And this law firm managed to help someone purchase a house using Bitcoin, and it's all on chain and verifiable. And we hear all these cases time by time, and it's a very consistent series of events. You get sold on the industry because it's something fun, it's something new, it excites you, your friends are excited about it, your little community surrounding you has encouraged you to take that step. From that point forward, you speak to us or another company or another group of friends, Telegram community, Discord, whatever the case may be. then you start to feel inspired to learn more about it yourself. You go through that learning journey and you come out on the other end feeling really empowered about the ecosystem as a whole. And if you can be a good investor whilst being excited and empowered in the industry, then I don't think there's much more you can ask for. But it's a healthy balance of keeping all of that. Especially, you've got to keep your security in check too if you're in those Discord communities and whatnot, just to flag that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've found myself researching more than ever and being more optimistic and more excited and more enthusiastic about what's going on. And I think that's the, if anyone just dives in a little bit, I can only see you getting more excited, because I think one of the big exciting parts is that you can see a news article and already know that it's a load of rubbish. That's such a good feeling to know more than the news.
For sure.
And so, yeah, kind of, I think that's the big lesson, empowering people to kind of do that kind of stuff. So I'm interested, as somebody who sees inflows and outflows on a very, well, I know it's a small crowd of people, but 26,000 is still a lot of people. How have you positioned yourself? Like where are you in your portfolio, without saying numbers? Like which assets do you look at?
Sure. Well, I think a healthy portfolio is one that is open to change. So there are coins and projects I've been invested in a year or two ago, which I may no longer be invested in now. And I'm always on the horizon for looking at new innovation in the industry. And if I can support that financially and ideally make a profit for myself, all the better, right? Consistently over the years, well, full transparency, it was Bitcoin, which was my starting point in cryptocurrency about a decade ago now, close to a decade. And that was really one of the few cryptocurrencies at the time, certainly the only one that's really consistently existed since. Some of the other ones I dabbled in back then, I think Feathercoin was one of them. It's almost a meme at this point. And from that point forward, Bitcoin made a lot of sense. It was a simple idea when you really break it down. On the back of the financial crisis in particular, really resonated with me. I loved this whole concept of things being verifiable on a public ledger. I thought it was really cool. I actually did a lot of my high school and university assignments pivoting back towards Bitcoin because I just couldn't stop kind of talking about it at that point. When Ethereum came along, not right away, but around 2016 mark, that was a very compelling offering. There were some nice books published on the blockchain revolution was one of the names of the book. It's a good one to read. And just going through that, I then thought, smart contracts, what a fantastic selling point. This makes sense. I fell in love with the idea of peer-to-peer transactions and verifying things on chain. Gives a lot of power back to the people without having to use these third parties that protect you and prohibit you from knowing the details and use all this crazy jargon to make it sound like they're doing something that's really not actually that impressive. And from that point forward, Bitcoin and Ethereum have always been a consistent part of my portfolio. So full transparency there. I would have loved to have sold the top and then bought the local bottom and then sold it again and bought it. But I'm too busy with work, and Caleb and Brown's a crypto business as is. So I see my own personal investments in those coins as something that kind of just hums along and exists in the background. Outside of that, there's been numerous projects that have come about over the years. DeFi was a really interesting sector that I was really, really passionate about. You have everything from your Chainlink to your Aave and whatnot over the years. But some of those coins I've had investments in and then I've decided to exit them. At the end of the day, I think it's really critical that people don't get too emotionally attached to these things. You don't need to hold onto your coins forever. If you have a good opportunity, you want to go on a holiday, or if you want to pay off some of your mortgage or college fees, cost of living, whatever the case is, there's no harm in divesting from these coins. I think we have too many clients that are so emotionally invested. The idea of selling for a profit is almost it's taboo for them to consider that. So I definitely discourage that line of thought. And then as years have gone on, we've seen roll-ups, layer ones. There's all these new areas that come about. And all of them, I would like to say, I've had some degree of exposure to, and you move in and out of them as the tide changes. You try and stay afloat with what the new trends are in the market as well, because you don't want to be the person who's holding onto a coin from 3 market cycles ago that is not engaging with the community anymore. You want to stay engaged with relevant projects. So that's my general philosophy. It's sometimes it works, sometimes I learn hard lessons, but here we are.
That's the crypto life, isn't it? I will say
Exactly.
my that sounds quite diversified. I'll say that much. It sounds quite diversified, which is probably the smart thing to do. When I think about what I want to do personally, and I don't advise people do what I do, but I prefer to assume significant risk in the short term, just for the potential upside. A lot of that for me is the undying confidence and belief in myself that whatever I lose, I'll get it back. So like I've got that as like a core characteristic and trait of myself. So I'm willing to lose everything in the pursuit of like the big move. Now I also think I reduce my risk by the depth that I go into the research. So like if anyone's making a calculated decision, I feel like I am, because I'm so far into it. There's no other company I know more about than Ripple. And I would say that probably for most people don't know as much about any company than I know about Ripple. And that's a lot of people in my community as well. So as a result of that understanding, when I look at my portfolio, I look at like there's 3 coins in there. And 70 something % of it's all in one of them. So I'm willing to accept that risk. It's not the smartest play, but it's the one with the biggest payoff. And that's where I am right now.
And at the end of the day, it's always subjective. We've got clients who think, you know what, I like Bitcoin. Bitcoin works. It's existed for all these years. I just want Bitcoin. Now, the reality is that with a market cap the size of Bitcoin, if it was to go back to all-time high, that would be a 100% increase thereabouts from current prices. And then you could say, oh, but if Ethereum goes back to all-time high, maybe that's a 200% or 150% increase. And then XRP, for example, I think $3.40 was its all-time high. If it's about 70 cents now, that's a crazy multiple. Just $3.40 is a great financial outcome to anyone who's invested in XRP. At the end of the day, there's pros and cons of every project there, and in order to get crazy upside, you need to have an exposure to risk on the downside. If an investment opportunity had no downside risk and only multiples and multiples on its current price of upside potential, then every single person in the world would be investing in it, and there'd be no problems in this world whatsoever. So I think it's all, at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said before, which is you want to balance your emotional conviction with as much objectivity and research at the end of the day. Now, if you can be excited about something, feel empowered, feel that you love the community and you love what the project is doing, but at the same time, you can remove any cognitive bias and just look at it for what it is, do your analysis, try, and even one of the best things you can do is research arguments against your philosophy. Like in the early days, I would watch videos on why Bitcoin is a scam. And through watching those videos, I was actually realizing Bitcoin's actually quite good. I'm actually more convinced now than I was before watching this video. Okay. So I think one of the best things to do is look at all sides of the argument to really make sure you have that conviction, and then you'll be more empowered as an investor and a community member. And it just means that at the end of the day, you've only got yourself to blame. Because I think one of the worst things is when people invest in cryptocurrencies, they do zero research, they become overly emotional about it, and then naturally they're going to say, I didn't sell the top of Bitcoin because my neighbor didn't knock on my door and tell me to do it. And that's not going to get you you're not going to have a very happy life if you do that. That's my 2 cents at least. People can disagree with me, of course.
I agree with you. Well, I would love to know what one of the questions I had last time we talked, but I wanted to bring it up here was I was thinking about, and I talked with you about it, how because I would endorse Caleb and Brown till the sun goes down. So like, and this isn't an ad or anything. So I'm just kind of just saying that. But my struggle was finding a way to put that in the description when I have the link in there, right? How do we've got exchanges, we've got cold storage wallets, we've also got brokerages though. And how do they fit into the specific type of person that would actually see benefit from a brokerage? And so what I put in my description was basically like hands-off investing. If you want a more hands-off approach, then Caleb and Brown would probably be the best way to go. How would you kind of epitomize as like an avatar that would be best suited for Caleb and Brown?
Great question. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. Personally, I find it as in all traditional industries, you'll tend to have a white glove premium VIP service, however you want to call it. Our job is just to be that for cryptocurrency. So if you think about, you can have your standard Revolut and Starling, Monzo bank accounts. They're great for paying for coffees. They're great for a whole range of things. But at the end of the day, if you need to have mortgages on properties all around the world, you want to set up a trust fund for your children, whatever the case is, you're probably going to outgrow those services and require something more dedicated, more premium in nature that offers more. So we're just trying to provide that for the crypto space. I think a hands-off solution is great. I think a premium solution is also great. And I think a trusted solution is an angle that we take as well. At the end of the day, there's no cost of having an account with us. If you want to trade with us, you can do so. If you have any questions, you can ask any time. There's no cost to talk to your broker. You can get lunch with them and the broker will gladly pay for your lunch. And worst case scenario, you had a good conversation and a free lunch. That's my approach to it. We like to keep it simple. And I think that hands off is a nice way of putting it though.
Hands off and premium. I like all of those words. I think that's really useful. All right. Well, it was a pleasure to talk to you today. It's been long overdue because we had this plan for ages.
The pleasure's all mine. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, whenever you get new features added or anything, feel free to come on and tell everyone about it. And hopefully at some point we'll see a big announcement that Caleb and Brown's using the XRP ledger. I'll take credit.
You guys will be the first to know. Yeah. You'll get a statue. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jake.
See you soon.
Bye. If you did enjoy that video, then please consider watching all of the other episodes in my podcast. Would you believe that I actually have a constant stream of podcasts playing at all times? And you can click this video to actually watch that live stream on loop if you want to get all that information. Alternatively, you can click the other video, and that's the one the algorithm thinks is best for you. You can join the 1% Mastermind by clicking that Discord logo, and you can also subscribe to the channel by clicking my face right there. Stay emotionless, and I'll see you in the next one.